How are all these famous authors hitting their word counts before their deadlines? Is there something they know that I don't? Sometimes your progress just doesn't add up. You spend hours and hours staring at the blank computer screen, having made little to no progress. For some of you, this might even run into weeks or maybe months. Maybe you eventually push through that barrier and start writing, only to find that when you come to edit it, you've realised that you've slapped down any old rubbish just to hit that day's word count. Or worse, you've done a chapter of descriptions and world building and all this fantastical stuff, but the plot wasn't advancing in any way, shape or form. Well, now that chapter is scrap, and herein lies the issue. We need to uncover the way to make you work smarter, not harder. And there's another issue facing writers too. We all want to get ideas down as fast as we can, knowing that they might be fleeting thoughts or that they might never return. And that means we don't want to be dismissive of them or slow to act on them. And so when we're into a word or a sentence or descriptive section that throws a wrench into our flow, it can feel like quite a big barrier, and it can mean the difference between a negative or a successful writing session. Well, I've got a technique for you today that's going to help transform your productivity. A technique used by some of the most successful bloggers, journalists, authors, script writers, and copywriters, and it's even taken 50% off the amount of time I need to make my first drafts. It's recognised by many freelance editors, a lot of them have been trained in this, and it can speed up the editing process of your book, be that line editing, structure editing, or even developmental editing. So what is this technique? Why is it so great? And why should you use it? Let's just get straight into it. Say you're writing a YA fiction novel which conventionally hits the 90,000 word mark, or even if you're writing an epic fantasy which is 120 to 200,000 words long. That's a lot of detail to include, and it's entirely possible that your A plot, B plot, C storylines can all just be summed up within 50,000 words, and the rest of it is just world building, details, location, setting, environment, little tidbits of conversation, and just details that can come later. So this presents us with a great untapped opportunity here, an opportunity to distill our work in draft one and create more efficient processes by writing those descriptions afterwards. But if we're leaving out those descriptions and details, how do we know where to come back to in the book? Introducing the TK method. TK means to come, and it's going to be a placeholder that can be searched for once your current draft is up for revision. So how are we finding it? There's various methods across the different word processor softwares, and if you write by hand, it's going to be impossible. But the easiest way is to press Ctrl F on PC or Command F on Mac, and you can just search the term TK, and that will reveal each instance of those letters. Oh, but Ben, to come doesn't start with a K. No, it doesn't. But the letters T and C appear much more frequently together in the English language than the letters TK. So think about it. If you search for the term TC, you're going to be finding words like catcher, nutcracker, snatch, clutch, switchblade, light switch, etc. Etc. is one of the words, the contraction at least. The ETC, you'll find the TC in that. So anyway, you get the point. But when you type TK, you are much less likely to run into these types of words. Now, you might find the occasional word, such as rootkit or pocket knife, but how often are you really using these? What we're doing is we're purposely introducing a misspelling that can then be recognised by both author and editor and software. And this isn't an uncommon practice either. Novelist Matt Quirk refers to TK as an editing mark, similar to other misspellings that help editors distinguish between, such marks in final copy, such as graph for paragraph and head for headline. And some of the biggest teachers of writing in the space, such as Savannah Gilbert, she's the one I actually found this technique from, and I've been implementing it ever since. So let's have a look at an example of this in practice. Can't find the perfect name for your antagonist? Let's go with Antag TK or Baddie TK for now. Or let's look at this situation instead. I've got this chapter planned out. It takes place in winter. I have already begun writing all the action parts for it, but I know I need to include some description of that location prior to all of it kicking off. Well, instead of wasting time, I'm going to put warehouse snow TK. I could even pop these bits in italics or bold so I could see it at a glance, but the highlighting that's going to ruin my flow a little bit. It's going to disrupt my pace, so I tend not to. But you can if you want. Okay, maybe you're not stuck on a chapter or location, but perhaps you know that there needs to be some emotional development just to build that emotional investment and drive that story progression forwards in a moment. After all, anything including your story should always be pushing your story and at least one plot line forward. It's important stuff, but it's also 11 p.m. You just want to get that breakup scene written, you want to go to bed and cry yourself to sleep. Well, that's fine. We can use the TK method to build this up too, and we'll revisit it later. Simply write the characters' names. So for me, that could be Will and Kim, and then what it needs to convey, which is an emotional moment. So I'll pop emo here for emotional. and then it needs to be a single beat within this chapter, just so I can wrap it up. So I'll write beat TK, and then we can find it through searching. So my term here will be Will Kim Emo Beat TK. Now I've got all the pointers I need there for when I revisit it. Okay, creatives, so how does this make you more efficient? It eliminates those snagging points. In fact, I used it when I was writing the script for this video. Remember earlier when I listed those words that start with TC and TK? Well, I actually place-held these lists by writing bullet points TK. So it has a wide use of applications. Another thing is, if you're questioning whether you need a scene or a chapter in its entirety, you can sack it off. You can write chapter 2 TK, for example, and come back to that with more clarity and understanding when you know what's going ahead. That way as well, if you decide to leave that scene or chapter out entirely, you've saved yourself from wasting time writing 3, 4, 5,000 words that would have had to be removed later. But say you do come back, say you do need that chapter, this also gives you a great opportunity to embed some foreshadowing. So when you revisit chapter 2, you know what's coming up next, so you can embed some of that foreshadowing and start advancing the story that way, dropping little hints, a little breadcrumb trail for your audience to follow. These are just some short, small example uses for it, but think titles, chapter headings, interviewee transcripts, character descriptions, magazine copy, action scenes. There is so much that can be saved for later just by placing TK as an editing mark in its place. It can be used on your coursework for the next time you need an in-text reference but you can't bother to go and get that book off the shelf, or even adapted to cover location descriptions in screenplays, a bit like this here. So how are you planning to use it? Let me know if you want to pick it up and how you're going to implement it by popping a comment below. And if you've got any other interesting ideas to make your process more efficient, then pop a comment below and I'd love to see it. If you like these videos and you want to see how to become a better writer, consider watching this video here, and I will see you very, very soon with some more hints, tips, and just general advice. Take care.